This is my audience. My name is Christopher Phillips. I have been a mechanic for over a year, and I've come across many different types of vehicles. Those also varying in types of emissions that they produce. Usually, the older cars will produce more emissions as opposed to the newer ones, since regulations have changed and they're trying to cut down on emissions. No gas car can cut down emissions as much as an EV car or electric vehicle car can. This is because they produce no emissions. Uh, Electric vehicles can typically be bought from Tesla, as you know many people know, but you can also purchase them from like Ford, Toyota, Chevy, and like Hyundai. These are other manufacturers that do produce electric vehicles, but also gas vehicles. Um, so, electric vehicles have many benefits to them, those being emissions, sound, and in the long run, they can be cheaper. To start off, we'll go with emissions. Um, One initial thing with the EVs is that their production cost in bio waste or CO2 emissions is more than gas. So to produce one electric vehicle is about on average 10 metric tons of CO2. Whereas opposed to a gas car, you are looking at about 7 metric tons of CO2. So it's already up ahead on the gas car in emissions, which doesn't seem about what you want, but it makes it up over the years. So EVs, of course, take in electricity instead of like gasoline. And so you're like, well, it needs to have electricity produced. So over a yearly average, from the cost to have the electricity produced and what the EV uses, it will about make up 2 metric tons of CO2. Whereas opposed to the gas car, which would be 5 metric tons of CO2. So over a typical car lifetime, an EV will produce an average of 28 metric tons of CO2. This is dwarfed by the amount that a gas car makes at 57 metric tons of CO2. Now, like I said, the initial production of a EV car is a lot more than a gas car, but over the years, it does make up for it in the long run. This is also shown by the cost. EV cars typically cost more than a gas car, with an average cost of $36,000, but higher end cars can go way above that. Whereas gas cars, well, you can get them up for 19 grand, sometimes even less. Once again, also having the higher end of them, but typically EV cars will cost more than gas cars. The thing is when it comes to actually driving the car, you do save money going electric over gas. So with electric, about every 1,000 miles, you're looking at about $25 to $33 and how much it costs to recharge your car with electricity and everything. As opposed to the gas car, which over about 1,000 miles, you'll be looking at over $100. Now that's even with the highest economic versions of some cars running at 30 miles a gallon plus. So if you're running an old muscle car or anything like that, and you're looking at like teens, that's gonna be way over $100. So you gotta kind of watch out for that. Now, one thing also about electric vehicles is they do have one interesting quirk, is that they make no noise. The only noise that comes from it is the slight whir from the electric motors and the tires on the road. Other than that, they're pretty much completely silent, as there's no combustion, no engines like that, so there's no noise coming from it. This has its benefits, as it does improve cabin noise, as you don't hear all the other noises of what the car uses to run, and it's relatively silent and makes it a nice, peaceful drive. Also lets you listen to your music better. The one downside to it is it doesn't make a lot of outside noise. So anyone blind or deaf might take it hard to, find the car. So if you come up on someone who can't see the car and they try and hear it, well, they're not going to be able to hear it. But now new regulations and just safety in general, car companies have been putting in speakers and pumping fake noises around these cars. This is also put into the cabins as well as the exterior of the car. So they're put in the cabins to kind of give people the feel that the car is actually working. Because for driving a gas car for so long, you kind of get used to the noise coming from the engine. So to hop into an electric vehicle after all that time, it does kind of throw you off to be sitting in silence. And a lot of people kind of get offset by that. So what they've done is they've actually put speakers in the car and they play artificial noises through it to give the illusion that the car is working, even though it might not sound like it is. This is also done on the exterior for the reason I said before, with someone who may be blind and can't see the car. It would allow them to be noticed of its presence, so they're not spooked by it, or if any worst case scenario, that they can get out of the way of it. EVs also pose a great future to a lot of things, most notably with Tesla and their new technology and self-driving cars, self-parking and all that stuff. And soon enough, you may even see fully self-driving cars, and all you gotta do is hop in and go. Other than that, that's pretty much it. EV cars do pose a great benefit over gas cars, and they're only in their infancy. So honestly, there's only up to go. So this is why I think you should buy an EV car over a gas car. One other notable point is that if you are considering buying an EV car, it is a good idea to buy one used, because that will already eliminate the initial production cost of CO2 emissions, and you can just run it until it dies, and so you don't have to already pollute the earth more buying a new one. Thank you. Good night.